that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. And today, I have for you Book 10 in the 19-book epic of New Jedi Order, Dark Journey, by Elaine Cunningham. Now, of course, the art that I used for the thumbnail are superior because the Japanese art just is overall way more phenomenal and better. Though it does keep this face in the art, if you notice. What can I say about this book? I rather like this book. I like this book more than Balance Point. I like this book more than again, sorry James Luceno, I like it more than a James Luceno duology. But at the same time, there's a lot of missed potential here, I feel. So this, of course, takes place after the events of Star by Star, where we're at right now. Raynor Thull is assumed dead. Jacen Solo, by most people outside of Leia or Ghana Solo, believes that Jacen Solo is dead. Anakin Solo is most definitely dead, so all that is left so far is the young Jedi Knights outside of Raynor Thull and Jaina. So she is understandably struggling with the dark side in this book. She's teetering on that edge, being very much like a near the end of the Clone Wars Anakin Skywalker, with the things that she is doing and the things that she's complying with and feeling acceptable to do. So this book, the primary plot is Jaina gonna fall? Is she gonna turn to the dark side? Is she gonna lose her way and become another Vader? Now, on the surface, there's a lot of cool stuff with that premise, and it does deliver that a little bit, especially with the character of Kip Dern, who's a good foil to her character. But it ultimately doesn't feel like that. As the B-plot kind of takes a big stepping stone in this, which is that it has to do with Hapen politics and things going on behind the scenes with the Hapes Consortium. With all the stuff that happened in the James Luceno's books and, and previous books, moving forward with that. And so it's this sort of thing, and then Jaina, of course, is also trying to get back at the Vong, trying to play up this trickster goddess persona, because the whole thing is that the Vong are not used to they don't understand that humans and a lot of species in the Star Wars galaxy, just twins are a natural thing, a very common thing. For the Vong, it's very uncommon for that to happen, so they kind of worship and idealize twins because some of their gods are twins, so it's kind of like the ultimate sacrifice to use twins for their sacrifice. That being said, that's kind of only started here. That'll be brought up a lot more in the Aaron Olson books coming up. But, yeah, I think the biggest thing, though, is... Well, I like the story of this book, like, a lot. I actually really enjoy it. This book either should have been longer, or we should have got a 20th book. Because, you notice this cover. What does this remind you of? Now, I don't particularly like this art. I think it's just the face and the schematic of a ship is kind of stupid, but the only other book in the New Jedi Order that looks like this is Traitor. And you could have done a lot with Jaina here to be a lot like that, but Elaine Cunningham, of course, is not Matthew Stover. So it's this thing where it's meant to be an exploration of Jaina and what her struggles, while also dealing with several other plot threads. Now, I like all of it. Again, I just feel like there's missed potential for Jaina. Because if there's one thing, I'll be honest, and other people will disagree here, I like Jaina, but I don't love Jaina. And I don't feel like Young Jedi Knights, or this series, or Dark Nest, or Legacy of the Force, or Fate of the Jedi, I don't think any series really gave her her due, in my personal opinion. She had moments to shine, she had really good moments throughout everything I've just mentioned, but I never felt as connected to her as I did to Anakin or to Kip or to Jason. And maybe that's just because I'm a guy. Maybe, but at the same time, I don't think that's true because I've felt something and I've connected with Tino Ka and Tahiri. I felt that. I've lived that. But for some reason, I just never got that with Jaina. Actually, the perfect example of this too, another character within the Star Wars universe, Mara. I like Mara, but I've never loved Mara. At the same time, they've given more justice to Mara in terms of emotional stuff than I think they have for Jaina. But that's just me. So overall, this book is very important. This actually leads to several key factors later on, which I'll get into in spoilers. I mean, one being Tino Ka being the Queen of Hapes, which I've heard some criticisms of stuff down the line. We're not going to get into it here, but this book is a perfect illustration of why it's not a problem, but we'll deal with that later. Also, just Tino Ka being the Queen of Hapes in general is just important, just for lore of everything. And then the Trickster Goddess stuff is going to be brought up moving forward in the Aaron Alston duology during New Jedi Order. Kip Durn also gets a lot of development here, and I absolutely love Kip as a character. I think he's phenomenal. He's one of my favorite. He is my favorite Jedi outside of the Solo children and the Skywalkers in general. So I love him. And then, of course, we get more Jack Fell in here. And Jack Fell is another phenomenal character. I absolutely love Jack so much. I think he's a wonderful new addition to this universe, and I'm glad he's here. We also get some additional stuff for Zek and for Tino Ka. You know, they're more side characters, but still, it's nice to see that. And so overall, it's more of a political book about the situation on Hapes and what T'Chum's trying to do with Jaina. But again, I liked all of it. I had fun with all of it. I just felt like this should have been more dedicated to Jaina than it was, considering it's only 300 pages. You know, it's one of the thinnest books in this whole series, but I don't know. That's just kind of how I'm feeling about it. But I do recommend it still. It does give some good insight into Jaina post Star by Star, where she's at the lowest point in her life. So I think it's a very important read to read. I just think there's a lot of missed potential. But overall, still enjoyed it. Solid book. And you should definitely check it out. I'm going to get into spoilers now. If you don't want spoilers, time for you to go. If you don't care, stick around. Alright, let's see here. We get to meet Kalila, which is the son of Tazvong Law. So that was interesting. This book reiterates that Raynars was kidnapped during Star by Star and is presumed dead. We don't know that for sure. I know what's up with that, but you don't know anything. I'm just kidding. But it's interesting with Harar. We've seen Harar a few times now. He's, I think, first introduced in James Lucino's book. But he's another case of, he does, I think, still believe in his religion, but he doubts a lot of it now, especially with coming to this galaxy and seeing the things that he's seen. He's not exactly sure that everything he believed is true. He's a really fascinating character, and we'll get more with him as we move on. Hapen politics. Again, Hapen, this T'Chum, you know, has always hated Tenial Dojo. Tenial Dojo being the Doth-Mary woman that fell in love or wanted to date, or wanted to just kidnap Luke and courts up her Princess Leia, and then she ended up with Prince Isildur, who was trying to court Leia in the courtship of Princess Leia, but ended up marrying Tenial Dojo. And she's been the Queen of Hapes for like the past 20 years now. But another thing with that, too, is that T'Chum's hated her. T'Chum's never liked Tenial Dojo, and what we also learn is that because of the fact that the Vong of is kind of just passively mentioned, we never get to see it or anything, but the Vong have taken over Dothmiri, like that. It's been taken, like Dothmir has taken over, um, along uh, with that. So, along with also what happened during the James Lucino's books, where the Hapen fleets got blown up and stuff, Tino Dojo is she's kind of losing it. Like, she's struck with grief over everything with Dothmir and stuff, and she's just kind of losing it. So, she's not doing too well. But, hold on. Sorry about that. But as I was saying, she is kind of gone. Like, mentally, she's not all there. So Tachum's trying to find a replacement. And so she kind of finds that in Jaina, because Jaina is struggling with her dark side tendencies. Like, she is not well with the grief that she's dealing with. She is taking it in a bad way. So Tachum sets her sights on her. Oh, and I had to make sure to make this explicitly clear to all of you haters of Post this story, because you clearly don't pay attention or know how to read or know how to remember things because you're old and decrepit or something. I don't know. Or maybe you're just purposely ignorant, which would be worse. Or maybe you're just purposely concealing information, which would make you worse than just not remembering something. So I'll try to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume you're not being a rightful little C word, as the British people would call it. But here in Book 10 of New Jedi Order, they explicitly talk about, because of the events of the James Lucino books in New Jedi Order, explicitly clear that the Hapen citizens hate the Solos. Hate all of them. They hate Han, they hate Leia, and they hate the Solo kids because of what Anakin Solo did. That includes all the kids, by association, Jason and Jaina. So these Solo children are not looked fondly upon by the Hapen people. Sure, Tachum doesn't care, because she's all about power, and she can make them in time, like Jaina. But the average citizen does not like her. Understand that fact. Because people are going to complain after this series that they try to be just like the prequels, showing all the similarities, ignoring all of the context. You're right. It's like poetry, it rhymes. Similar situations, completely different context. So maybe you were just being stupid and didn't remember, so I'll let you have that pass, but it's either that or you're purposely giving misinformation, in which case, screw yourself. You suck. Anyway, just want to make that explicitly clear, because that rang a doorbell in my mind when I read that passage. So I just want to make sure it's explicitly clear for all of you that the Hapen culture right now, the Hapen society, don't like Solos. I hope you just remember that whenever we get to future stuff. Don't forget that. Only thing that's going to be mentioned at all that even vaguely has anything to do with Jason, because this story is not about that. And I'm not going to do this every single time I talk about New Jedi Order. It just happened to be something worthy of discussion. I love proving people wrong. It's great. Jaina's priority of leadership over balance. This is something that Tino Ka kind of brings up, because she kind of focuses all of her energy into stopping the Vong and to doing all these tactics and stuff and being a leader. And it helps her I can't say the word. I'm so stupid. Carpenta. I'm gonna stop. It helps her focus, so she does not have to think about her grief. But because of that, she's imbalanced with her feelings, with the Force, and with everything else. In fact, her mother can't even sense her, really. Tachum and Jaina have some interesting discussions as well. Um, what's kind of a actually it just takes into another note that I made. I'll just add it here with Jaina's intelligence and her approval of the game. So, what I explain by that, Jaina starts talking to Tachum and starts actually considering a lot of things that Tachum is saying, because the problem is that one thing I like about this though is that we learn how intelligent Jaina actually is. She's actually very, I mean, not just smart, but like a good, like tactical, politically, and in a combat situation when she wants to be. Um, but she likes the game because she knows that Chum's like trying to manipulate her and stuff. But she likes it. She likes the game. She likes the politics behind it, the the mental warfare with the subterfuge and the playing on both sides and the game. The Game of Thrones, the Dunes of the world, the game, the politics. She likes that. But the thing is, that's it to me comes off very dark side because it's very inherent to the Sith philosophy, which is it basically is the game. Backstab once you have what you need, and keep politicking through everything with everyone. Constantly be on eggshells with everyone, always playing the game, always trying to one up, always trying to be better. Subterfuge. The way the game is played. The game. If you've read anything political. Um, but so I found it really interesting that she actively enjoys it, which is a problem for her in this book. Another thing which is just cute is her and Jagfell and their chemistry in this book, as she continues to tease him, and he continues to get frustrated over it, which I thought was great. What else do we have here? We have Anakin's funeral, which was rather sad. Kip says some inspiring words, though. But, Jaina brought the body back from their mission, so they got to actually have a funeral. I just want to mention it, that he had a proper funeral. Kip's boundaries. We get to see a lot of Kip here, which is really cool. I really love Kip. A lot of people hate him for some reason, but they're stupid and wrong, so it doesn't matter. But I love Kip. I think he's a great character, and, when Kip starts to have boundaries, you know that Jaina's going too far. And it's a bit of character growth for him as a character, which is really good. He's going to try to rebuild the Jedi Council by the end of this, which is cool too. But his relationship with Jaina is a bit weird. I'm surprised not enough people comment on this, considering it is very flirtatious. Everybody's quick to yell at stuff down the line, but then won't do the proper due of addressing this. Like they just glaze over it. It's a little weird, and it's not just Kip who does it. There's so many men who does this. It's quite bizarre, and this is way before Denning, so it's weird. But outside of that, they actually have a very interesting and fascinating relationship that works very well. I think they work well enough together. They're very similar in kind of their demeanor, whether they like to admit that or not. So I think they're rather well paired together. One of the coolest scenes in this book is when Kip gets frustrated with everything going on, and he throws Slobaka up against the wall and uses the Force to just literally turn Jaina around and scoots her up to listen to him. Oh, it was so dark side, but it was so cool. And he immediately was like, but it was so cool nonetheless to see him do that. Oh my god. And then they fight, which was also cool, and pretty much, Kip is successful in beating her, which, yes! I mean, eventually, I think Jaina will be stronger than him, but at this point, she is not, and it's just cool to see him kick some butt, because we don't really get to see him do stuff that very often, he talks a big game, but we don't actually get to see it, so it's nice when it's actually portrayed, because he is, I mean, I know people say power levels are stupid and all that, right, this isn't Dragon Ball Z, but let's be honest here, everybody's got, a power level to some extent, and we could at least say with an absolute shadow of a doubt, that Cornhorn and, Kip Durin are, prequel Jedi Council members, up to Kiara and Mace Windu right there. That's how powerful they are. And and then Luke is Yoda at this point. Like this is how much the power structure that B is. So it's crazy to think about that, and of course Kyle Katarn would be up there as well. But it's just crazy that he's so powerful and we never get to see it. So it's cool to be able to finally see that. And then the final thing, which is that Teniel Dojo is poisoned. She's poisoned by T'Chum, probably. I literally can't think of anyone else who would have done it. So it was most definitely T'Chum, as a ploy to get Jaina on the throne. But she does not go to the throne. It is in fact Tino Ka who puts on the crown and becomes the new Queen of Hapes, or Haps, whatever. Which is be important for stuff down the line for the rest of this series and for series onward. But it kind of glosses over how Tino Ka's feeling, which I'm kind of sad about because that was her mother. But it's kind of glossed over. So I don't really like that. But Jaina seems to have found a better balance by the end of this book and seems to be more light side than teetering on dark side. But one thing that is quite fascinating, though, within this book is, and in Star by Star as well, is, and this is the only thing I'll bring up in terms of Jason, because I know I'm sure people are getting annoyed that I bring it up like every chance I get. But no, this book absolutely shows why it would make so much sense. It would be so predictable and so easy for Jaina to be the one that goes evil, to become the villain. But she doesn't. She overcomes it. Kip teeters on the dark side, but he somehow always remains in the light. He's probably the closest thing fans have to a gray Jedi in terms of canon, same with Qui-Gon Jinn, but he's still, even with his rashness, even with his anger, even with his struggles, he still, at the end of the day, remains true to the light. But, Jaina struggles too, but at the end of the day, she remains light. And I think it's an interesting case to be made, too, with Anakin Solo, that he didn't even teeter like Jaina or Kip. He did use, not necessarily dark side, but he was aggressive at times. He did what had to be done. He didn't think about it. But never once in this series or even in Junior Jedi Knights did I ever really get the distinct impression that he ever really struggled with the dark side. Not really. Interesting. The one with the most potential dies. The one who should become dark side, which makes the most sense for it to become dark side, doesn't. Then, assumingly you have the person that makes the least sense. Except, does it really? We have the most prideful, arrogant, self-righteous person in this entire series, who sure espouses such great things, espouses the morality of it all and how important it is to not murder people, not do this or that, we can't kill. But I don't know. It's almost as what Palpatine said in Episode 3. It's ironic and tragic for it to fall on him. But that's just me. But anyway, last thing I'll say about that. But that's pretty much it for the story. They defeat the Vong that are bothering them. Harar's like, we have underestimated her, and it'll be a bigger thing in the Aaron Alston books. But yeah, she's gonna be hamming up this trickster goddess persona. Kip's gonna continue to help. Jag's gonna continue to help. Tino Ka's now the queen. That's kind of the big thing you need to focus on from here. Jason is still presumed dead. And that's basically it. It's only 300 pages, and I feel like, there's some character development for Jaina and Kip, but outside of that, nothing really happens. But yeah, that's, I guess, pretty much all I have to say. I can't think of it. Oh, right. Also, in Star Wars Gamer number 8, if you get your hands of a PDF or you have an actual copy of it, there's a short story by Elaine Cunningham called The Apprentice, which feels like a deleted scene from this book, possibly, which mostly focuses on Kip and Jaina. I'll leave in this link in the description to Meg Reviews, who did a review of it. I don't really have anything to add there. It was fine. I mean, it might help you appreciate this book a little bit more, but I don't feel like it adds too much to really be worthy or warrant, unless you're like me and you want to read everything in the Expanded Universe to really dive in and take the time to read this short story. It doesn't really add that much to anything, but it is something you can check out. But overall, like I said, it was a fine book. I enjoyed it more than Balance Point or the Lucino duology. But not the best of what this series has to offer. That's coming up. So until next time, guys, I'll see you when we get to see Aaron Alston return to the Expanded Universe with his duology set during New Jedi Order. So until then, guys, may the Force be with you.